Hello everyone, in this video we're going to build a website in React.js using style components again. This website was inspired by Paper Pillar. It's just an amazing website. I don't know, the first time I took a look at it, I just wanted to build it myself. Essentially we can see this amazing hero section in here, and when we scroll down we have this cool animation where it scrolls, basically the button goes to bottom right corner and it transforms into this cool email thing. Essentially I'm gonna show you my website now. It's kind of the same thing. I have changed the name and a bit of the sizing of the characters in here, just my personal design choice, to be honest. And then we scroll down, we can see that my button changes to bottom right corner. I'm going to teach you how to do that. And then we see this feature section, we scroll down, we see our client section, and notice how the client section is actually has actually a layout which is quite unique. You don't see this quite often. I want to teach you how to do that as well. And then we have a projects. Basically it's just a simple content section with animations, and we have this cool parallax effect on our cards here. We scroll down, we see more projects, and we have another animation right here, and then a simple footer. I didn't want to go too fancy with the footer. Then if we try to press on the button right here, we see a sign up form showing up in the modal, and if we click on the background here, the modal disappears. And finally the website is fully responsive. We can see that we can try to make it smaller and everything works fine. And we can also scroll down, we can see that everything looks good. Now I'm gonna show it to you in a mobile view. Let's take iPhone 10, and yeah, we can see a mobile menu here. We can click on sections, it's gonna smooth scroll us to one of the sections on the website. We can scroll down, we can still see our clients, we can still see the projects, and yeah, that's it. Also, I would like you to know that for our client section, we're only showing 5 clients, but if we have a bigger screen, we're gonna show all of them. Yeah, that's it. So I hope you're excited to build this website as I was when I did that. Let's get started with coding. Before we begin, I would like to mention the sponsor of this video. This guy right here, me. It took me approximately 3 days to finish this video, and it's going to take you less than a second to hit the subscribe and like button below. It would also really help my channel grow so that I can create more content for you. I would really appreciate your support. Thanks! To start off, open your terminal and write npx create react app and the name of your project. Otherwise, you can go to my GitHub repository and clone it to your local desktop. In this repository, I have already created all of the initial setup. Essentially, I have removed all of the unnecessary files. I added some of my data, and I added some of my images for the website as well. For this website, we're going to use the following packages: React Tilt for this cool parallax effect, React Router DOM to be able to switch between pages, React Icons, it will help us import all of the icons we need from this library, React Intersection Observer to be able to replace our window scroll listener, Frame Emotion so we can animate things, and Style Components. It's how we're going to style our components. As for the structure of my project, I'm going to create 2 folders in my source folder. One will be called components and the other will be called pages. In my components folder, I will store most of my components, and they will be stored in folders as well. For example, clients, content, features, and so on. Inside of my components folders, I will have 2 files, one for the component itself and one for its styles. For example, if I have folder clients, I will have clients.js and client-styles.js. For my pages, essentially it's going to store all of the pages for my website. Now in my source folder, I'm going to create file global-styles.js. I'm going to import styled and create global style from style components. Then I'm going to define my global style components. Essentially, I will define a container, section, image, and heading. I will also have a global style object which will define my box sizing, margin, padding, and font family. So I have defined my global styles. For those who don't know how it works, essentially when I define my component, I just say I want this container to be a div, and then it's just a normal CSS property within the container. Same here. Sometimes I can pass props to my style components. For example, in here I am passing props as light text, and if there is light text, I'm going to turn it into white, otherwise it's going to be dark color. What else? Oh, so my global style object, I need to export defaulted. Global style. Essentially, this is going to define my global styles for the whole application, and because I have the star over here, it's for all of the HTML elements. It's going to have a boxing size, margin, and padding. My font family is Montserrat. I have imported, I should have it in my index.html here. Essentially, yes, I imported it from Google Fonts. Otherwise, what you can do is go to the Google Fonts and find Montserrat. Now, when you type in Montserrat, you can select the fonts you want. I would select regular 400, 500, 600, and 700. Essentially, it's the main fonts I'm going to use for this project. And then we can just copy that link and paste it into index.html. However, if you cloned my repository from GitHub, you don't have to do this. Now what I want to do is to go to my home page and type in home in here. We can easily create a React component by typing RAC and then enter. If it doesn't work for you, that probably means you're not using VS Code, or you don't have the React snippet extension, which you can install by going into this tab and then typing in React snippets, and then you should install ES7 React extensions. So now I want to type my home, and I want to go to App.js, and in my App.js I want to import global styles. I want to import home, a page, and I want to import router, switch, and route from React Router DOM. It's a home page. And so now I want to wrap everything inside the router. I want to add my global styles. Then I want to add a switch. Inside my switch I'm going to add one route, which is going to be having a default path to slash, and it's going to have exact route, meaning that if I add something after this route like that, it's not going to render this route. It's going to be exact, and then I want this to be rendering a component home. Route component doesn't need any children, so we're gonna have it as a self-closing tag. Now write in yarn start, and let's take a look at what the website looks now. So it has given us an error on line 11. We can see that on line 11 it says home is undefined. That's absolutely correct, because it's not home, it's home page. Yeah, I made a mistake here. Now it says it's compiled successfully, and if we go back we can see that our home has been rendered, and our home is essentially that component. So now I need to start with the hero section, and then the hero section will be added to my home page. In my hero section I'm going to also write RAFC, and then I'm going to need to import useEffect, useState, mail from React icons, some style components, and use in view from React intersection observer. And then I need to write some logic into setting up my animations and normal JSX. So I have finished my hero section here. I will move on to my hero styles, and then I will explain how all of this works together. As for my hero styles, I'm going to import styles, styled from style components, section from global styles, and motion from frame motion. And then I'm going to define a few style components like hero section, hero image, and so on. Alright, so now I have finished my hero styles.js. Now what I want to do is to go to my homepage, and I'm going to import hero section and use it in my JSX. I'm going to have it as a self-closing tag, and I'm going to go back to my website. Now you can see that it's working really fine. So whenever we can also drag the elements like so. Essentially in my hero styles, when I imported frame emotion right here, I can use it to animate components that I want to animate. Essentially, I want to animate my character, and when I pass in my style, normally I say style.image, but in this case I'm going to pass in it as a function motion.image. Essentially, what's going to happen now is all of the components that have image character tag will be able to be animated with props such as drag constraint, and hover. So basically drag allows me to drag the elements in my website, but also it allows me to my drag constraints say that everything is 0, meaning that whenever I drag it somewhere away, it's still going to go to its original point, to 0. My variants, essentially it's all of the other CSS properties I can animate. For example, while I hover using this variant, I change my Y coordinate, and I want to have a transition of 0.6 seconds, and it's going to be animated infinitely like that. So when I hover over it, we can see that it's changing its coordinate by 15 pixels every 0.6 seconds. Yeah, so that's it. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to use it on my website. This is just for a demonstration of how you can use frame emotion in your website using style components. The reason I'm not going to be using that is because I want this to be responsive, but if I add frame emotion, it will not be possible. It would be, but animations would not work. Essentially, what's going to happen now is if I try to make it smaller and bigger, we can see that all of the elements are like going far in top left and top right corners. I don't want this to happen, so I'm going to have to wrap all of them. What I'm going to do is to pass in my character container, and I'm going to wrap my image characters with my character container. And if you look at my code in here for my character container, it's just another div that have a width and height of 100%, but its max width is 1300 pixels, meaning that the images will not go in a top left and a top right corner. So you can see here that they are right now in the middle. Because it's position absolute, we can center it using left and transform properties. So I'm going to move it to the left, and when I move it to the left, it's supposed to be somewhere in the middle right here. You can see here it's somewhere in the middle, but to center it exactly in the middle, I need to transform it to the right by the 50% of its original width. So that's why I need this property transform translate x to minus 50%. Okay, so this is it for my character container, and the reason I will not be able to animate things is because whenever I try to hover over it, it's going to hover over my character container, not the characters themselves, so I won't be able to drag them, I won't be able to hover over them, because it will be always the container that will be highlighted. In my opinion, the responsiveness is more important than just some kind of animations, so I'm going to leave it like that. Another thing I want to explain in here is my React intersection observer in my hero section right here. Essentially, it's a hook, and this hook returns two values, ref and inView. InView is basically a Boolean value which checks whether a certain element, HTML element, is in view of the browser, and a reference is a reference to what element you want to reference it to. Essentially, I want to reference my button container, which is that for me, and so this is referenced, and basically browser this React intersection observer is checking whether it's currently in view of this container. When it's not, it's going to pass in as false, and when it's going to pass in as false, I want my button to be at the bottom right corner. So let me show you real quick. I'm gonna go to my root ID here, and I'll say that this height is equal to 500 view height. So right now it's in view, and I actually added console log. We can see it in here. In my use effect, I have added a console log which displays in view whenever it changes. So right now it says true, it's in view, and whenever I scroll down, it says it's false, it's not in view. I scroll up, it's sent true again, and it's going to be up here. So the logic is quite simple, I would say. For my CSS, essentially what I did is I passed in my corner class property if the element is in view, and also if it's in view, I am changing the children of this component from chat with us to email icon, and that's pretty much it, I think. Yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. It's quite heavy to it's quite a lot to take in, but I will gladly answer your questions. Also, you're more than welcome to get the source code from the description below and try to research it for yourself and figure it out for yourself as well. Now I'm going to focus on a Navbar section. In a Navbar section, I'm going to create a simple functional component, and I'm going to need a use state, a few React icons, and style components, which I will define later in my Navbar styles.js. For my Navbar logic, it's going to be quite simple. I will just have a use state that will define whether I want to show my mobile venue or not. I will also have a function scroll to, which will have a smooth behavior, and whenever I click on one of the Navbar items, it will scroll to the section of this element. For my Navbar styles, I'm going to import style components, and I'm also going to import container, and I'm going to inherit my container for one of my Navbar containers. I also want to import my link and from React Router DOM, and this link will be also inherited by my nav logo. I have finished my style components for my Navbar. Essentially, you can see it's just simple CSS. You can look at the source code for yourself. A few things I want to explain though. For example, this syntax just shows that I want to Navbar container to inherit all the properties from the container, which I have defined at my global styles right here. And on top of that, I'm going to say it's going to be display flex, justify content start, and height of 80 pixels. Same thing with nav logo here. It's going to inherit all of the properties from React Router DOM link, and also add on top of these properties. In my navbar, I have also defined my data, navbar data, which I'm actually going to create a new file for. I'm going to call it navbar data.js, and I'm going to cut that and paste it in here. I'm going to export it and use it in here. So for Navbar logic, I already said that this is basically a state for my mobile menu whenever I want to show it or not. In here, I'm just mapping through all of the arrays in my data right here, and essentially what it does is creates a new nav item, and inside the nav item I have a nav link, and every time I click on the nav link, it's going to drag me, scroll me to the section that I have clicked on. Now I'm going to go to my App.js, and I'm going to add my navbar right here above the switch, because I want my navbar to be seen on every single page like that, and I'm going to import that. My nav logo is not defined. Alright, so I just need to, yeah. let's go back to the website and see that everything works fine. And if I try to scroll, if I try to change the width, we can see that I have a nav menu right here. Essentially, this nav menu is that element, CJ menu, right? Because my show is false, it's going to show that. However, if I click on my my icon here, my show will be true, meaning I will have a far times, which is an X sign. And then also in my navbar styles, when I pass in my show property for my nav menu, I say that I want either opacity to be 0 or 1 depending on the show property, and also I want the visibility to be either hidden or visible. Essentially, that's how I make it either invisible or visible to me. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing is whenever I click on one of these properties, nav items, I'm going to be dragged to one of the sections. However, I still haven't added the sections to the website, so it's going to give me an error. Yeah, it's going to work though whenever we add the sections. For my next section, I will be working on features.js. For that, I'm going to create a simple functional component and import container, some feature styles, and features data from my data folder. This section will be just a simple JSX, and it's not going to have any logic to it whatsoever. So I have finished my features section. As I said, nothing much to it, no logic, it's just a simple JSX, and I have also defined my style components right here. It's the same logic as my previous style components. I'm just writing some CSS, exporting them as style components. In my homepage, I want to now go to my homepage and basically add my feature section right below the hero section. I want this to be a self-closing tag, and I want to import that as well. Now if I go back to my website, and we can actually see that the feature section is there, and we can also press on about, and it's going to scroll us to a feature section. A few things I want to explain as well. All of this is exported from my data. Some of you must have known that already. So my features data right here. Essentially, I have this array of data, and I have a name, a description, an icon, which is being exported from React icons, and an image class name. Image class name is created so that I can give different colors to these icons. So you can see that I have a name and description, and then the different icons, and then you can see that every single item in here every single different image in here has a different class name. So for example, that has a class name of 1, and that has a class name of 2. And what I have done in my feature styles right here is for every different image wrapper style, I have defined different background gradient colors. So that's it for my feature section. Next I'm going to move on to client section. So not gonna lie, client section is pretty much exactly the same as features, except it obviously has different styling, different layouts, and different data. But pretty much it's just a simple functional component that has some style components inside, which I have created in my client styles, and I imported from my global styles. And it's also using client's data from my data folder. So now I have finished my client section. Essentially it's exactly the same than features. It just have different layouts and different styles, obviously some different style components. If I'm going to go to my homepage, and I'm going to add it right after my feature section, and then I'm going to import it as well, save the file and go to my browser. We can see that the client section have been added, and this client section has two views: a small view when it's less than 1100 pixels, and a big one when it's more than 1100 pixels. It has quite a unique layout. Essentially how I did that is, if you go to my client's data, you can see that I store it in an array of arrays. So my first element has array of one element, and then 2 elements, 3 elements, and so on. And you can see that it's 1, 2, 3, 2, 1 again. And in my clients, what I'm doing here is I'm looping it over twice, looping it over the columns to display the columns, and then looping it over rows to display the rows. Also in my client styles, what I did here is for every column, I want to hide the div that is not the first child of my column. So if you can see here, whenever I try to make it smaller than 1100 pixels, we're gonna see Airbnb, Amazon, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, and Facebook. And everything else will not be the first child of the column. That's why it's going to be having a display none. Like that, yes. So that's it for my client section. The next one is just a content section for my projects. My content.js will be a simple functional component. I will have a simple use effect, a container from global styles, some content styles from style components from content styles, use in view and use animation, and also tilt from React tilt, so I can have this cool parallax effect on my cards. It will also have a bunch of props passed in from my homepage, and the logic will be quite simple. It's just going to be the same one as my button in hero section. Essentially, I will define my initial, transition, and animation properties as variables, and then whenever this content section is in view, it's going to be animated by opacity 1. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So that's it for the content section. Now I'm just going to add it to my homepage, like so. And I'm also going to add the objects from my data folder. So it's import hero 1 from hero data, and I believe there's only 3 or 4 objects. Hero 1, hero 2, hero 3, hero 4. Yeah, so there's 4 objects. What I'm going to do now is to just copy and paste all of them here. It's going to be 2, it's going to be 3, and the next one is 4. Now I'm going to pass them in here. I won't be passing them as hero 1, I will need to destructure them, like so. And just, yeah, do that. Let's go back to the website and see how it's done. We can see that it's being animated whenever we scroll in view of the section, and we have this cool parallax effect. Essentially, in my content styles, content section right here, what I'm doing is I'm passing in a property transition to my top line, heading, subtitle, and content button, and each of these properties have the same initial and animation property, but they have a different transition. So for example, this one has a delay of 0.3 seconds, this one has a delay of 0.7 seconds, this is 0.5, and essentially what's going to happen now is it's going to animate one by one. You can see its title, description, and then button. The same thing with the content column 2, which is basically an image. It's animating the image, and I'm wrapping the whole image in my tilt component that I have imported from React tilt. Essentially, it's just letting me have this cool parallax effect when I hover over it. In my tilt, I need to pass in my class name tilt, because that's how it's going to have this parallax effect. And I need to pass in the options. One of the options is max 20. It's amount of degrees you want your card to be tilted. So I want maximum to be 20 degrees. I want it to scale to 10%, and I want to have a speed of 200. Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, and also for this section, essentially it's the same as hero button container. Whenever this content section is referencing use in view, whenever it's in view and it's true, it's going to animate. this threshold means that it's not going to animate exactly when this section is going to be in view. It's going to animate only when 20% of the section is going to be in view. So the threshold can be from 0.2 to 1% to one number basically. If I type in 1, essentially it's going to animate only when the 100% of the container is displayed. So let's take a look. We can see it's animated only when 100% is displayed. We can see nothing here, nothing here, and then it's animated when the whole thing is displayed. I don't like that personally, so I'm just gonna leave it to 0.2. Right, in my homepage as well, I want to add a heading which I want to import from my global styles, and I want to say that it's going to be our projects maybe, and I'll give it an ID of projects. So now if we go back to the website, and we can see that we have a heading right here. Also, I have noticed one problem here. My icon right here, it's not having a z-index over the images, so I need to fix it as well. What I'm going to do is to go to my navbar and find my, sorry, it's not a navbar, it's a hero section, right? So in my hero section, hero styles, this is a hero button, and we're gonna set the z-index for the hero button as, let's just set it as 999 because it's supposed to be over everything anyway. Restart, and interesting. Some of you must have noticed that there's actually an issue with this button. It's supposed to be on top of every single element on my page, but it's not. I believe that's because my hero section has the same z-index as my any other section, and because it's the same and other sections go after my hero section, they're going to be on top. So if I go to my hero section and I change this z-index to 11 maybe, that should be fine. Yeah, so now it's on top of everything. I just need to change it in my source code as well. I'll go to hero styles, and it's in my hero section right here. I'll just change it to 11. Okay, so this is it for my content section. Now I'm going to move on to a footer and a modal for the website. There's nothing too fancy about my footer as well. Basically, it's just going to import some React icons and style components, and I'm just going to basically write a simple JSX. It's not going to have any logic in it, so I don't see the point of telling you the same things I have already told you about the other components. The footer section will be going into my App.js instead of my homepage, because I also want my footer to be displayed on all the pages. So I'm gonna add it right below my switch, right here. Soft closing tag as well. And I need to import that. Let's see how it looks. Yep, just a simple footer. Didn't want to go too fancy on this website anyway, because it's already having a lot of animations and components. Next, I want to work on a modal, so whenever I click on this button, it's going to display. As for my modal, I'm going to be using useRef, useEffect, and useCallback hooks from React, animate presence from frame emotion, some style components, and form component that I have already defined in my form folder. As for the logic, I'm also going to be needing properties show modal and toggle modal, which are going to be passed from my parent, and I'm going to have a reference to my background section, background component, which is going to check whether someone pressed on a background component, and if someone pressed it, the modal is going to be closed. Then I'm going to have a key press callback function, which is going to be added to my event listener for key down inside my useEffect, and then I'm going to remove the event listener whenever the component is demounted, The reason for that being is that whenever I open Modal multiple times, if I don't remove the event listener, it's going to be adding the event listener every time I open a Modal without removing it. Next, I'm going to have my background variance. Basically, for that I'm going to have a capacity of 0 initial, and animate, it's just going to animate it with 0.4 seconds to opacity of 1. My modal is going to be the same, but I also added a y coordinate, so essentially my initial will be low by 200 pixels, and whenever I de-animate, so exit from my animation, it's going to move up 200 pixels, so it's going to have an effect of moving from bottom to top. I'm going to wrap everything inside animate presence, and I'm going to have a ternary operator to check if the modal show modal is true. Then I'm going to display the modal, and then I'm going to have a background which is going to contain my modal wrapper, form, and a close modal button. So now my modal is finished. Now what I'm going to do is to go to my hero section and add my modal there. First of all, I'm going to import useState from React, and I want to define states for my modal. So it's going to be show modal and set show modal. It's going to be boolean, and by default it's obviously going to be false. Now what I want to do is to create a function. This function will just toggle my modal, so I'm going to call it toggle modal, and it's going to have no parameters, and it's going to return nothing as well. Essentially what it's going to do is to check if I have a show modal, and if I do, then I'm going to go to document, body, style, and I want to hide the overflow, so that whenever my modal is selected, I won't be able to scroll through the page. Set to hidden. Otherwise, if it's not, I'm gonna return overflow to scroll to or visible. After all that, I'm gonna set show modal to opposite, because that's what toggle means. Right, so expected on line 23. Oh yeah, so I got that instead of... now I just want to add my modal somewhere at the bottom, so I'm gonna wrap everything in a fragment here, and right below hero section I'm going to add my modal. I want to have a self-closing tag, and it's going to be show modal to show modal, and toggle modal is equal to toggle modal. Modal is not defined. I'm going to import that, and it says that show modal and toggle modal are not defined. Yeah, interesting. That's because I have not edited in my props here, show modal and toggle modal. Close modal button in line 86 is not defined. This has to be one button. Now I can go back to my website, click, and nothing shows up. That's because I need to, when I click on a button, I need to toggle it. You can see that I have a to-do here, so I need to go back to my hero section right here, and where's the button on click, instead of to-do, I'll just call toggle modal. I don't need the arrow function. It says that in line 21 right here that I need to pass in my toggle modal as a dependency as well, and in my footer I should have a LinkedIn here, but I just didn't edit, so I'm going to remove this import here. Alright, so let's get back to my modal. In here I'm gonna click on it, and now it works. Essentially we can see the modal here. I kinda wanna fix this navbar. Yeah, so it has a z index of 100, same as modal, so I'm just gonna make it to 99, so it is behind my modal. I'm gonna go back to my Navbar.js right here, Navbar.js styles to be correct, and we'll go for z index. Right, so I'm just gonna change that to 99. Yeah, so now we can see that our navbar is actually behind, and if we click on outside of our modal, it disappears. So essentially, when we go back, essentially here, whenever we click on our background, it's going to cause a close modal function, and it's going to check whether we click on our background, and it's going to toggle the modal. And if we go to modal as well and we click escape, it closes the modal as well. Now let's check how responsive it is. We can see that it's still good. Let's actually look at the iPhone X view, for example. Yeah, I think it's not bad. If we scroll down, we see our clients, the projects. Now the projects are actually displayed from top to bottom, and we have the footer. Open the nav menu, we can click on about, everything works cool, and I want to click on here, and the modal shows up as well, and we type in something, and yeah, everything works fine. That's it for this tutorial, I guess. Thank you for watching. Leave comments and likes below. See you in the next video.